There's another misconception that happens that leads people to believe being the seventh best player is okay, which is, well, if the winner is generating 500 million in revenue and we're generating 50 million in revenue, we're just worth like 1/10 of the winner. I don't think I've ever seen this thought backed up in fact. I think that the assumption is you're going to trend towards generating no revenue.
Yes.
This is Dalton plus Michael. Today, what we're going to talk about are some non-obvious insights we've had on how you actually make a very large company. I think what I'd like to explore is how maybe the advice that we give pre-product market fit is slightly different than the advice that we give post-product market fit. And I think sometimes founders don't get this right.
So I think to start with, disclaimer.
Yeah.
This is a nuanced topic. This is a fantastic example of something that I'm happy to speak about on video.
Yes.
And would never in a million years put on X or social media.
Yeah.
Which
we got to
nuance doesn't work. Even writing blog posts, it had to be a very long blog post.
This is tricky.
This is super nuanced. And so the nuance here is pre-PMF, you just need an idea and you just need to make something that people want. And so much of the advice is to stay out of midwit land.
Yes.
So much of the advice is to quiet your mind from all the distractions, all the super fancy strategizing you think you're doing, and just like go do the thing.
Yes.
And that's how I would summarize lots and lots of the pre-PMF advice is just go do the thing.
Less strategy, more help the customer.
More just do things.
Yeah.
Right? And those people win. Again, here comes the nuance.
Uh-oh.
What we will totally acknowledge is that post-PMF, if all you do is that same pre-PMF strategy, you can end up in a local maxima.
Yes. More common than I ever thought. And I think that there is this false belief that if I can make $10 million, I can make $100 million, I can make $500 million. And actually, it usually often starts at $1 million.
Yep.
The thing that makes me $1 million can make me $1 billion. What's unfortunate is how easy it is to verify that's not true. Like what's unfortunate is you can look at a lot of software companies and ask, what did they do to make their first million? And is that how they're making all their money now? And for just as many examples as you would find in the positive, you'd find in the negative. Like Google monetizing search. Microsoft? Yeah. Completely different. Completely different. Get into the nuance here.
Yeah. I think the way I would set up this is to say, let's use the Facebook example. I like to use them just because it's now everyone knows it's a big company, but remember when it was not a big company?
Yes.
And at the time when it was a small startup, it had the best social network for college students.
Yes.
And it basically had a monopoly for people that had a .edu email address.
Yes.
And at the time, you had to be a student at one of the universities that they supported.
Yep.
Otherwise, you couldn't use it.
Nope.
That was part of what made it cool is there were no parents on it. There were no kids on it.
It was a feature.
It was a feature that was
a
super
feature.
elite. It also restricted you to only your university.
Yes.
And so they built a super sticky product. But at the time, the conventional wisdom is, this is some college kid niche social network.
How can that be a big
How
business?
can that be a big business?
Yeah.
This is, by its very definition, niche.
Yes.
And then if we look back in time, the strategic decision that was not hill climbing, was not, hitting a local maxima, was to first allow high school students to come in.
No, first it was the companies that a lot of the Ivy League kids went to work at.
That's before high school kids?
That was before high school kids. Yes. It was like Accenture.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, it was some of the I remember those were some of the first non-EDUs that came up. Yeah.
So Accenture was in. That's it.
I think Accenture got in before some colleges got in.
That's a departure from the original vision. Then high school kids was a really big departure.
Yes, big departure.
And then the decision to allow all people to sign up,
Yes.
I would argue is a great example of a big strategic bet
Yes.
that was not related to just hill climbing what they were doing.
No.
Then there was the big strategic bet to do mobile,
Yes.
which was betting the farm on the mobile app was a big strategic
Because
bet,
all the money they were making was on web at the time.
right?
Yeah.
Then there was the Facebook App Store strategic bet.
Big.
There was the Facebook phone strategic bet, which didn't work out. Like there's been,
Instagram, which is basically the company now.
yes, it's saved the company. With hindsight, you can see all these times where the founder had to make a decision that was not hill climbing, making the product better.
Yes.
It was actually making kind of a crazy bet and betting the company on something.
Yes.
And with hindsight, those ones worked out.
Yes.
But remember back in 2005, 2006, there were a bunch of VC-funded social networks.
Yes.
High Five,
Yep.
Tagged.
Yep.
And for whatever reason, those companies didn't make these types of moves, or to the extent they made strategic moves, those moves did not work out.
A takeaway from this story is if you're going to build a very, very large and successful social network, probably the best way to monetize it is through advertising. You have to figure out how to be huge. And there are a lot of other network effects that come in being huge. But if we just think about the business perspective, right, the value to an advertiser for everyone being in one place and the amount of premium you can charge, massive. You don't get that value if you're the 7th place player. I'm sure there are a lot of other product reasons why this whole path made a lot of sense, but the business reason effectively enabled to make Facebook to make the amount of revenue it does. And I think that sometimes when we're talking to startups, I get the impression they care far more about what they believe their next fundraising milestone is than what number they'd have to hit to IPO, what number they'd have to hit to be a $50 billion valuation company in the public market, what company they'd have to hit to be $100 billion. And sometimes you are inadvertently making choices that reduce your chances of actually building a valuable company. One of the areas that we see this a lot are companies that kind of have to bundle.
Yeah.
So look at HRISs, right? And it's just like, whatever reason, because why would you want to buy 17 pieces of HR software, right? Like the market wants bundles. And we see companies all the time, like build a best-in-class product and then struggle with, do I do more? Do I bundle?
Yeah.
Hell, we're seeing this with bigger players now, right? If you're Zoom, if you're Slack, right? You had these decisions like we got to a certain size. Do we build the bundle?
Yep.
If we don't, can we really
Well, remember,
go
Slack
to the
is
next
just
level?
Salesforce now. They got acquired.
Well,
So it's part of a bundle.
yeah, well, another bundle. Yeah, exactly, right? These are conversations that we never want to have with a pre-product market fit company, right?
Yeah. Again, let's use a specific example. Let's say someone wants to build a new cursor competitor.
Yes.
Pre-PMF, it's like, well, have you talked to your users? Like, does anyone want this? Is this better than cursor?
Yes.
Like, it's just the fundamentals. Any midway strategizing about whatever is irrelevant if you have no users.
Your product is worse than
If it's
Cursor,
bad.
nobody.
Like, if no one will use it, you have a problem.
Yes.
You know, if Claude Code is just way better, you're
Game over.
game over.
Yes.
But if you were sitting here right now and watching this video and you had raised a bunch of money or a Series A
Mhm.
and you were the 7th most popular Cursor or Claude Code competitor, and you've done no strategic thinking
Yeah.
about what the plan is,
Yeah.
I think you're going to have a bad time, right?
Yes. And I think that there's another misconception that happens that leads people to believe being the 7th best player is okay, which is, well, if the winner is generating 500 million in revenue and we're generating 50 million in revenue, we're just worth like 1/10 of the winner. And I don't think I've ever seen this thought backed up in fact. I think that the assumption is you're going to trend towards generating no revenue.
Yes.
And I guess there are some markets where there's 6 winners, but and so it's interesting is in your example, right? If you're the 6th best player, like you must be obsessed about winning the whole game.
Or just having a move. There's got to be a move.
Or playing a different game.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can win that one. And I think we encounter a lot of YC founders who, and a lot of founders in general who are kind of like, but isn't 50 million in revenue sufficient? Like, haven't I won?
Yeah.
Like, isn't the finish line behind me? Like I got here. If I got to 50, it's a guarantee I'm going to get to 500, right? One of the things I say to a lot of founders is, what do you think is the failure rate for a Series B company? Because like, I think in their minds before I ask the question, they think every Series B company wins. And then after I ask it, they're like, I guess mathematically that wouldn't work.
Yeah.
So
Not
what is-
everything wins.
when they hear stuff like, 80, 90%. They're like, oh,
Well, what's funny about this nuanced point we're making is I could see a lot of people being like, yeah, totally, guys, I agree with you. But why aren't you doing all that during the batch? Again, I don't think people recognize
No.
how this style of thinking
no.
is literally poison when you're trying to just ship a product, but is absolutely necessary. And
Well, I
it's
don't
all
even
contextual.
attack it in this way. I think most of the times in your pre-product market fit, you're still trying to learn what the customer wants. I would almost argue you're still in the fundamental kind of, let me learn what the hell's going on. I think that like when you're trying to make these high strategic moves, it's very helpful that you know some stuff. It's very helpful that you have a mental model of the customer, you have a mental model of their needs, you have a mental model of why your product helps them or not. Like, and these are things that you're still playing with pre-product market fit. This kind of thinking creates paralysis on a pre-product market.
Yes.
Like, you know, instead of writing code today and talking to users, let's spend 8 hours talking about strategy, right? Like,
Well, again, you go back to the Facebook example, all of the strategic work Zuckerberg did was super helpful with a guy with 100 million MAU.
yeah.
Like, it's like, cool, man,
Yeah.
here are the keys. You get to spend a lot of time pontificating.
Yes.
Having some guy
Yeah.
sitting in his apartment strategizing about the future of social networking,
Yeah.
that's not someone in a good position
No.
to do this type of analysis.
When Zuck's got 2,000 Harvard kids, that's not the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the point you made in the beginning, which is that like, this gives us a little bit more time to flesh these ideas out. I think another idea that you introduced to me, which is I think is a basic finance idea that I didn't fully embrace at first, is just comps. The number of times I'm talking to founders and I'm just like, what company do you comp yourself to? Because if you're trying to think strategically, like what does good look like? Where are we aiming for? And the number of times people will be like, oh, well, this company has $1 billion valuation. I'm comping myself to them. And I'm like, I always laugh now because I'm like, you have a sea of public startups that you could. It's like, you know, I don't want to learn anything about playing basketball from Michael Jordan because I like this guy who plays on Duke right now. And I'm like, all right, good. I like the Duke guy's great. Like maybe he'll make the NBA. Like, can we talk about Michael Jordan for a second? Yeah. And it's like, oh, but Michael Jordan's old. And I'm like, but he won. Pick a newer winner. Let's talk about LeBron James. Can we just talk about someone who's really put points on the board and we're not judging them on what they might accomplish in the future? But founders resist this.
I
those
think part of it,
companies are
or at least
cool.
in my own experience, is it seems so foreign to go public or to know anyone that did. It just felt like being like, let's talk about the astronaut who walked on the moon. It just didn't seem real. Whereas now it seems completely real, but we're in the bubble, man. So again, I think that's my steel man on why people.
I hear that. But I think, you know, it's funny. We've gotten to do a number of YC talks with Tony from DoorDash. And like, I think he was thinking earlier than anyone ever believed that like, I want to do delivery better than Amazon. Before he ever had the right to, you know, the privilege to think that way, I think he was thinking that way. And that's just a choice, right? Like he could have only comped himself to Uber and Postmates. You choose who your heroes are.
Yeah.
And I also think it's more exciting. Like it's scarier for sure, but it's more exciting to compete against the big players. All right, last dangerous topic. So I love talking about this. So during early stage fundraising, we often make fun of investors who say, what are you going to do when Google builds your thing? It's often a sign of a unsophisticated investor.
I think it's because we heard that so much when we were founders.
Yes. Well, also there's no right answer. Yeah. It's like, yes, if Mark decides to directly compete with you and ignore everything else, how would you win? It's like, it almost feels like an unfair question. But there is a stage of company where the Googles, the Amazons, the Salesforces, the Microsofts will take interest. I heard a great story from a YC company doing a CRM, and he was like, have you ever heard of Microsoft Dynamics? I was like, I don't know about random Microsoft products. He's like, oh yeah, it's their CRM that's taking like customers out of Salesforce's hands left and right. And I'm sitting here like, how many of our founders think Salesforce is one?
Yeah.
And Microsoft's like, oh, this is around the time, in the last
Time to
5
pay
years.
attention.
Let's start. We could do that. Or, a classic example, right? AWS.
Yeah.
Damn near a decade. They were the only serious player.
Yep.
Google, and then Microsoft's like, oh, yeah, we could do that. And like the crazy thing is like, we can hire some of the people who built your thing
For sure.
and ask them, hey, now that you built it, how would you do it better the next time? And so what seems like a dumb question from a later stage founder, how should a later stage founder think about these big guys? Because they do compete.
I think it's worth thinking about from your customer's perspective. Just go through the laundry list. How hard would it be for someone to switch? Are there non-obvious reasons that they wouldn't want to switch? I think just being really honest with yourself about those things is probably a good idea. Like in the case of Slack, I think what I heard, again, this is not first party, this is just third party. I think a lot more people were willing to use Teams and other stuff than Slack.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not as sticky as they had hoped, which is part of why they needed to get acquired, I believe. That Microsoft actually did damage to Slack, and that's why they got acquired, was my understanding.
It's funny. So I talked to somebody who was like a product lead at Microsoft, and he was just like, look, like we could bundle Teams and like we could effectively almost default roll it out to all Microsoft folks, where every one of those deals, Zoom would have to get people to adopt it, upsell them, figure out some IT thing, do all the contracting. And Microsoft is like, this is the next product in the suite.
Man.
A question that is completely irrelevant to most YC founders for their whole career is, if you're a product like Slack with the amount of kind of takeoff that you had, or Zoom with the amount of takeoff that you had, was there a way to compete against Office? And like one of the things I often think about is like there is a point where you might actually have to go at these big guys' throats.
I mean, okay, one more time to go back to the Facebook thing.
Yeah.
Google decided to kill Facebook with Google Plus,
Yep.
and they put like half the company on it,
Yep.
and it totally failed. But it's not because they didn't try.
Nope. Nope.
It was not
No.
like there was a very serious effort
Yes.
by Google to bury Facebook.
Yeah.
It just didn't work out.
It's funny because it's kind of like, I don't know, I think about the ocean and just different size fish. And like when you're a fish this small, nobody, the great white doesn't care. But as you get bigger, you've got bigger competitors. And I think that I almost wish that more founders thought of that as empowering. I thought of more founders like, hey, now I get to compete against the big guys, because it's not like the big guys have the better product often or not. Right? Like often by competing against the big guys, you can bring a better product to market. And like, I'll use DoorDash as an example. I've been an Amazon user for 25 years. And I would have said I've loved Amazon, top 5 products in my life for maybe 20 of them. And something started happening about 5 years ago where I would do an Amazon search.
I know, yeah.
And it's like,
it's hard not to buy junk.
Yes. And I'm like,
you have to really try to not buy trash on Amazon. Like the whole thing is set up to buy
click the
crap.
right button. Yes.
Yeah. You almost need to do discovery outside of Amazon. Deep link to the thing you want to buy. And otherwise, stay the hell out of it.
Yes.
It's all bad.
Well, and the terrorism of it's one thing when you sign up for some service online, it doesn't work out and you can just unsubscribe. The terrorism of getting something physical in your home and you're just like, okay, if I have to return it, that's just even more time. But then this and like, or just like silly things like the photo was the wrong size. So it's like, Amazon started putting this product is often returned. And I'm like, why is it in the result? It's like I have to scroll down to learn.
I'm sure some PM is going to get sent this video. The email from the boss. Have you seen this? Please consider, investor guys talking about it.
Well, and the other thing is the sponsored products. Like Google taught me that like sponsored stuff's at the top and you just scroll past it. And then like you get the real stuff for a while. And like you should be able to tell the difference between ads and not ads. Amazon's taught me like, I don't even know what's going on. Like, is that an ad? Is that not an ad? Are those reviews fake? Are they real? I have to have a plugin to tell me whether the reviews are real or not. I'm like, on the other hand, DoorDash, I can't even believe in saying this. I'm like, because DoorDash fulfills from the local stores, and like it's very hard for random spam ship products to get distribution in local physical stores. When I order on DoorDash, I feel safer.
You get the thing.
Yeah. And it's like, it's a thing that kind of is like, it's a brand I've probably heard of.
Yeah.
And it's going to work and it gets there faster. And I feel such like a rich douchebag as I'm sitting here like, I don't need these sneakers in an hour. Like, I don't, like, but I'm not even using DoorDash because I need them in an hour.
Yeah.
I'm just using it as I trust it. Yeah. Right. You know, it's like, I feel uncomfortable. I mean, Amazon Prime, Amazon, I got all the Amazon stuff. I got Echoes throughout my whole house. But I'm like, very interesting. DoorDash is competing against Amazon.
Yep.
They've decided like, we're going to take on the big boys, and the big boys maybe are a little more vulnerable than they look.
And what's funny to cap us off is that was always the plan. Like the comps were, you said this a minute ago, but the plan was always to imagine the size of the logistics business for all products was bigger than food only.
But first, you know what he had to do? He had to get someone a fucking burrito in Palo Alto.
Yeah.
Right? You don't get to have this conversation without, how do I get someone a burrito in Palo Alto?
Yep.
So use this advice correctly. Don't come back to us and don't yell at us. We don't want to hear, your pre-launch companies. How do I take on Google? But if you do find yourself in a little bit of a rut in your post-market market fit, maybe you got to be more ambitious, which is counterintuitive. All right.
All right.
Thanks a bunch.
Michael. Appreciate it.